Roger, middle initial C, Rocha Jr. Birthday is July 12, 1970, and I was born in Laredo, Texas. Our family goes back to the Canary Islanders, all the way back there on my great-grandmother's side. We've been in Texas and Mexico for a lot of generations that I can't even fathom counting. But we're, again, part of the Canary Islanders that settled, San Antonio de Bejar, way back in the day. And then also on looking at my great-grandfather's side and so forth and family, a lot of them from Mexico. Held family ranches over there, actually on both sides, my grandparents' side, grandmother, grandfather's side. So my roots I could trace pretty much all the way back to Spain on both sides of the family. Had land grants, family land grants. They're in what we call the Valley of Texas, that McAllen, Harlingen, San Diego area. That we're kind of lost a little bit, after the U.S.-Mexican War. But our history in Texas goes back many, many generations. My mother was born in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. Came over to the United States, immigrated at the age of 2. She became a teacher, then became an entrepreneur, and went back to teaching. And there's a lot that I could say about my mother, which I'm sure a lot of people can say about their moms, because if it wasn't for our mothers, we wouldn't be where we are today. No offense to the dads, but as we all know, it's mom that kind of gets us to where we're going. So in aspect, talking about my mom, she's my best friend, biggest supporter, and at the end of the day, she's mom, and we love her for it. My biological father was an attorney. My parents separated when I was 5, and he was a successful attorney there in Laredo. He already passed away from pancreatic cancer. And my stepfather, who I call Dad, he raised us, my 2 sisters and I. And a lot of love and respect for him, because it's not easy being a step-parent, whether you're a stepmother or a stepfather, which I'm sure if anyone listens to this will probably relate to and understand. But he is a good role model for us, and he was the one that actually introduced us to LULAC. I went to a Catholic school called Mary Hope of Christians till I was 5th grade, and then ended up at a school called United Day for 6th grade, and then that was private school. And then of course junior high I went to Lamar Middle School, and that was a crash course in public schools, coming from a Catholic school. And then the following year a new school had been built, high school and middle school, and in South Laredo, called Ciarroa Middle School and Ciarroa High School. And so I ended up going over there for my 8th grade, and then going into the high school. It was a brand new school, both of them were. It was a really good time to be in that school. Made a lot of lifelong friends there, both my school peers and, believe it or not, teachers and administrators. Back then there was a lot of respect for teachers and administrators back when I went to school. Something that I think has kind of gone by the wayside. But nonetheless, high school there, went to community college to begin with. It was back then it was Colorado Junior College, and paid my own way. I had to work, take out loans, and pay them off to go to school. And then eventually transferred to Texas A&M International University there in Laredo. Got my undergraduate degree in history and political science. And when that happened, it was time to go get a job, go be in the real world. So from there I went to AT&T. I got hired by AT&T, and I spent 16 years with AT&T. And along that line, I thought to myself, if I'm going to advance in corporate America, you need to have more education. So I went and I received my master's in business administration from Texas A&M International University of Laredo. And then unfortunately, because of corporate world being the corporate world and such, there were layoffs, so our team got hit. So I went to go work for a friend, and then from there I learned the business of home care and started my own business, and which I've been doing now for 12 years. We take care of veterans that require nursing assistance, and we also take care of elderly at their homes, those that cannot provide for themselves. Something basic as cooking a meal, washing clothes, helping them bathe and stuff. So went into that. I've been doing that for the last 12 years. We also have another business where we provide child therapy to children to help them out right now, because if we don't help them out with their speech skills, they're gonna have a difficult time in school. But sometime during that process, a little thing called COVID hit, and I was bored. So I decided to go back to college, keep my mind busy. So right now, I'm currently working on and set to finish a double master's in history and political thought. So that's kind of been my trajectory so far. But I got my entrepreneurial spirit from my mother and her side of the family. But I also got the education side, from the family as well. I do believe that education is a thing that we should never stop doing. Whether it's a formal education, be an institution, or the education of life. Both have a lot to teach you. And while one offers you a degree, the other one doesn't. The one that doesn't offer you a degree actually gives you a better dose of reality. So it's always good to learn both sides of it. So that's kind of been my trajectory so far. Aside from that, I do give back to the community a lot, the philanthropical part of what I do. I do. Partly by myself through my finances or through our LULAC Council, we give a lot to the church. We give a lot to our home churches in the barrios that we grew up in. And I bring this up as a significant point because it's when you're growing up in the barrios that you either realize that you have nothing or you don't realize that you have nothing as compared to others. And the reason I say that is because you can be very low income and be very happy because you have a family that has a lot of love. But on the flip side, you might say, hey, we don't have these things as compared to these other people. So we invest our time and monies through the church because the priest in a local church knows exactly where the need is. And through the different churches that we help, we make a difference not only for the kids in those barrios, but also for the parents that are helping, grow their kids and stuff. So that's pretty much been my trajectory in life so far. Couldn't tell you what tomorrow's gonna bring. No one can. But I would say this: the challenges that are presented to me in life, I love. Because you grow from challenges, you grow from adversity, just like you grow from learning. But to be able to hit a specific challenge head on, and the end result is helping someone, so it makes it worth it. There's a book called For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. There's a part there that I've always kept with me that says, for why are we placed on this earth if not to help one another? And I've always remembered that. I always carried that with me. Because we could see somebody smiling on the outside, but in the inside we don't know what they're going through. Sometimes the smallest deed can make the difference in someone's day. We will have good days, we will have bad days, but I guess the only way to make things work is to try to make things work for everyone. Earliest goal was I wanted to be an attorney. Had attorneys in our family and educators in our family. And the reason I wanted to be an attorney, for several reasons, was because I saw who lived better. I know, that's not a joke, but it's true. Who would live better, an attorney or a teacher? So let's go the law route. Took the LSAT, took my, test and everything. Didn't get in the first time. But like I said, I had to get a job. So that kind of sidetracked me from being an attorney. Even though some people might speculate that I'm very argumentative, but I guess that's probably part of the upbringing that we have. But also part of the upbringing, we have to always question things, which people should always do. But from there, I haven't regretted not being an attorney. But I do tell this to kids that I do speak with. Whatever your dreams are, follow them. Try them out. Sometimes you may not make it. It might not happen. That just means that dream was not meant for you. But there are other dreams that await you. And then that's really how things work out. Did I think that I would be where I am today as an attorney? No. I think my trajectory in life would have been way different. But I'm very happy the way things turned out for me. And those are the messages that I want to give to students, that sometimes things don't work out the way we plan because of this little thing called life. But nonetheless, dreams change, goals change, but you don't change. As long as you're following your dreams and don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, go do it. Try to achieve it. And once you've been there, try something else. Don't stay sedentary, just keep moving forward. And for me, that's the philosophy that I've always embraced. Keep moving forward. 18 years old, and when I was able to vote. And I don't know, I guess maybe back in the day, you felt more of a pride or responsibility to go vote. I vote in every election, just making a point, whether it's early voting or day of voting. But I remember going to go vote, and the church, one of the halls there was a precinct, and pulling up there, you see all these people yelling like, vote, vote, and you're just telling them, yeah, I'm gonna vote for you, yeah, I'm gonna vote for you, but you're really not. You're just going with the flow of everyone that's politicking and yelling out, outside, the precinct. But that was the first experience I had with voting, and I did enjoy it. Some people say that, my vote doesn't count, and that's not really true. All votes count. Whether it's in a local election, a state election, even in a national election, all votes count. Might not like the end result of, who you supported. Maybe, candidate didn't win, but still, I remember it vividly, and like I said, it's a responsibility that I know my generation takes seriously still today.
How do you identify yourself? American, Mexican, Chicano, Tejano, Latino, Latin, Latinx?
American.
Has that ever changed over the years?
Nope.
How do you feel about this, the new term that's come out the last few years called Latinx?
Well, it's something that the younger generation are trying to create, so they can find an identity and a purpose in life. Is it a term that I would use for myself? No. And then I say that because if you look at the term Latinx, it was created to not have an identity. But you created an identity to not have an identity. So that really, to me, doesn't make sense. We are all Americans as I see it. And the only way we're going to achieve parity, in my view, is if we stop hyphenating. There's nothing wrong with, embracing your roots and your heritage. Nothing wrong with that. But we're the only nation that has hyphens when you say an American. French don't say that they're French so-and-so. English don't say they're, hyphenated. No, just us. We're the only country that does that. And because we do that, that's what starts, all of the tensions and separating us and dividing us amongst what we should be Americans, because the world doesn't see us as Mexican Americans or Irish Americans or French Americans. They just see us as Americans. So my flag is the red, white, and blue. I pledge allegiance to the flag. My country that feeds and protects me is America. It's not a hyphenated country. It's America. And you might think, well, that's, pie in the sky or very nice thinking. Well, no. It is true. This is who we are. We're American. So for me, all these other classifications are things that we're being placed in. I guess if you had to say, the only one that I probably would relate to is Hispanic. And barely. But those are what's on sometimes these questionnaires. My stepdad, he was very involved in LULAC. And LULAC is a big thing in Laredo. LULAC Council 12 at the time was one of the founding councils, one of the original councils. And way back when, in those days, you're talking the 20s when it was formed to the 40s, everybody knew where the LULAC Hall was. And people would go there. Members, non-members, they'd go play dominoes, they'd play cards, go drink a beer, go to happy hour, etc. You're talking the 40s and the 50s, my stepdad's grandfather was in LULAC. Again, right there when they first chartered Council 12 and such. So Laredo LULAC has always been a very, very big part of the community. And just like any other LULAC council that is in the community, you can mention any other Latino organization and they're not going to know who it is, but if you mention LULAC, people are going to know who LULAC is. So that's where we began. We started taking family vacations to LULAC conventions, and that's how we got exposed to LULAC. And once I, was of age of 21, I was literally drafted into a LULAC council by some good friends who had just formed a new council, Council 7, in Laredo. But I've never regretted. I've always enjoyed it because I knew what LULAC stood for, and I felt I needed to give back to LULAC because LULAC gave me a $300 scholarship to go to college. So I always felt an obligation to give back to the community through LULAC. Kind of like a pay it forward type of concept. And one of the beautiful things about LULAC that I've experienced going to these conventions in the 70s and 80s and so forth, with the family, was just that, the family concept. I've met so many people from across the country that when they see me, they're like, Roger, how are your parents? People that have been with LULAC 40, 50 years. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm considered one of those legacy members, and a legacy member is a child of a LULAC member that continues the legacy of the family being in the organization. And for me, and I think a lot of legacy members, it's very important that we maintain the family presence within the organization, for that next generation that's already here or coming. So for me, LULAC is a way of life. It's a part of my life, but it is not my entire life. Won an election as a district director by one vote, only because the guy that was coming got there late. They never let him live it down. But from there, our council, our district saw leadership qualities, and from there, being not only the district director, you serve on the state board of Texas, and on there, people saw qualities of leadership, and I became, once my term as district director was over, I became parliamentarian under then Roman Palomares. And after Mr. Palomares had concluded his time as state director, I had run for deputy state director. The convention was in Laredo, Texas, and at the time, state director was Margaret Moran, now President Margaret Moran. And I became her deputy. And from there, I just kept people like, you need to take the next step. We groom people, or at least at the time, we were grooming people for those positions of leadership, within the organization. So from deputy state director, I went to state director and got a lot of things done, helped a lot of people. And from there, it was just a natural transition to run for office at the national board level, and ran for national treasurer. Hector Flores actually told me, Roger, the safest place to be is treasurer, because you have the money and everybody will like you. I said, okay, so I ran for treasurer. And so I ran for national treasurer, served 4 years there, and then I took kind of like a year off from running to just detox a little bit. And I was, at the time, President Margaret Moran had appointed me as an advisor for her, so I continued to serve the organization in that way, and then I ran for national president and was successful in running and able to help a lot of people there as well. But that was a trajectory there, because as national president, it's the highest level of our organization. Yes, that's a given. And when you're there, that's when you fully realize the gravity of not only the people you're representing, but the people that came before you. When I won the presidency, I went back and I looked on the LULAC website, and I read every biography of every past LULAC national president. And it's interesting to read what they had to say. From people on their deathbed saying, don't let LULAC fall apart, don't let LULAC end. And these were in the early days of the organization, when it was very unstable, to we have to make it grow and make a difference. I would recommend to anyone, you don't have to be national president of LULAC to read, what your national presidents, how they thought of, back when they were president. But it's very moving, and it's a big responsibility. And you try to do the best thing for everyone and to help everyone as much as you can. I think I would say, and I don't want to speak for all of my former national presidents, my colleagues there, but you want to try to help everyone, but sometimes you just can't. And I would say that's probably a regret that you have when you leave office, that you helped people along the way, but you kind of wish you would have been able to help more individuals. And that's the thing, sometimes you say, well, it was unfinished business. No, it's not unfinished business. It's business for the next president that's coming in to take and continue moving, the mission of the organization forward. Immediately after I had won for LULAC national president, the next day I got on a plane with then CEO Brent Wilkes. And I didn't go home. I had to travel to the Republican National Convention and then the Democratic National Convention to go present the Latino agenda. And when you're going into a room to present these agendas, of course you have people that don't agree and people that agree, but you have to work your way through these, through these little minor obstacles. So for me, day one was going and doing that, which was good because it's kind of like a trial by fire. I think we passed that test. I remember another thing was then Roberta Jacobson, she was up for confirmation for the U.S. ambassadorship for Mexico, and one of the senators was holding up the confirmation, and we had a relationship with him, and I was asked to make a phone call, and I did, and spoke to the senator, and I said, look, we need this person here. Mexico's our biggest trading partner. It's, we need to have an ambassador. And we spoke candidly, and he lifted his hold, and she was able to get confirmed, which, I was glad I was able to help there. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that in Texas, there was a gentleman by the name of Ramiro Ramsey Muniz, and I had met with his wife when I was state director, and he told me about his case. But now as president, I knew that I could do something. So I was appointed to a senatorial committee, if you would, on crime. and how things were going to be, crime bills and criminal reform bills, etc. So I was able to be a part of that criminal reform bill that went in. And I used Mr. Muniz as an example. And I said, here you have an individual who at the time was very ill in the infirmary, in a penitentiary, and he had been there, and every time he went up for parole, it was denied. It was denied because of the 3 strikes you're out rule. And I said, here's a man that is not a threat to the community. Here's a man that should die at home with his family, who he hasn't seen in God knows how many years. Easily about 30 plus. And during that discussion, there was pushback. And they're like, well, why don't they give him a humanitarian parole, Mr. President? And I said, well, they've requested it, but it keeps getting shot down. Really? Sir, what can you do about it? I said, well, we'll look into it. Discussions ended. About a week later, I got a call. It was a private call about what we had been discussing. Some things that I cannot repeat, not even on camera today. But they said he will be released. And he was paroled. And I was proud to say that an issue that I had learned about maybe more than 10 years before I became national president, I was able to bring resolution to some form of justice to this individual to be at home and pass away with his family. To me that was a big thing. But from there, the criminal justice reform was to do it with 3 strikes you're out, and looking at the overcrowding of prisons and the small sentences for you got caught with so many little ounces of marijuana or cocaine or whatever, you're self-medicating, to not be something that you have to go to prison for all your life. So I was part of that. And also I was appointed to put together the sex trafficking bill. Human trafficking that passed. We worked on it, and that passed as well. A lot of people don't see that, but that was huge because, that is a very big problem we have on the border. Forget about illegal immigration, that's nothing. Human trafficking is a big issue that is going on today. Hopefully one day it will be eradicated. But I was part of that bill to put together. And I guess where I'm going with this is the trust that the Republican side had and the Democratic side had of senators to ask me to serve on these committees was huge. And you only get there because you're at the table with them trying to negotiate. You can send out press releases, but press releases aren't going to do anything. You have to be at the table. And I recognized that early on when I became national president, to be at the table. There was, and I'll give you an example, there was a dinner in California given by Latino 100, and it is all Republicans. And Republican is not a bad word. Democrat is not a bad word either. But it's a Republican group of Latinos who were LULAC members, and they wanted LULAC and myself to succeed. And in this private dinner was then Treasurer of the United States, Jovita Carranza, became a very good friend of mine. And there was 13 of us sitting at the table. And everyone went around introducing themselves, and some people I had already known. And when it came to her, she said, "Mr. President, you are here because we know what your intentions are. You want to do good for the Latino community. But let me tell you something," she said. "You had friends in the Obama administration because of the way you do things, and you have friends in this administration, which at the time was the Trump administration. And that is why you're here." And when I thanked her for those comments, and someone mentioned, "How do you feel being in a room sitting here with 12 Republicans?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, bring some more. I have you outnumbered." And everybody just started laughing But it's that type of communication that you have when you can hear it from both sides of the aisle, that we're going to work with you, we're going to work with LULAC. Why? Because as a LULAC president, you have to walk that fine line of being nonpartisan. The moment you get partisan and personal, we're not going to get anything accomplished, ever. So to walk that line is a fine line. I feel I did it very well because I was welcomed by both administrations, a Republican and a Democrat administration. So I think those are important things, and those are lessons that I feel every president should be able to embrace, which is you have to be at the table and you have to be able to walk that fine line. There are other things that, I can talk about things that we got accomplished during the time that I was president, but those are the ones that stick out most because those are two bills, and one directly helps someone, Mr. Muniz, and another one for human trafficking. Those a lot, and to help have a U.S. ambassador confirmed on a phone call, that is a big thing. That is a very, very big thing. But again, the fact that I was able to help a lot of people, and like I said, there's some people that didn't have a chance to help, and I wish that, I guess the one regret that I have was getting so close to having the Dreamers and the DREAM Act being codified and protect them, and not being able to. I think that's probably the one regret that I have, because in today's environment, politically, they're still at risk. But had things not worked out the way they did, I really feel today, the DREAM Act would have passed and these kids would have been protected. And that's one of the things that my colleagues that I work with, both Democrat and Republicans, told me. So the one regret I have would be that I didn't get a chance to help them. And it's not so much for the individuals that we see here walking around. No, for me, they're a little bit privileged dreamers. I'm talking about the ones that still walk with their heads down, when they're walking down the street, that don't have the money, that didn't get an opportunity to go to college for whatever reason, that are working as day laborers, trying to find something to help, sustain their family. The ones that are like what I call like a little bit privileged dreamers, they've already gone to college, they've gotten their degrees, they have their careers, whether they're doctors, lawyers, etc. But it's the ones that are still hiding in the shadows, the ones that are afraid to poke their head out of the shadows. And in today's environment, they're probably going to be the most protected because they haven't come out of the shadows. But when you look at them, and they're not hard to find, they're not hard to see, you just have to open your eyes and say, there they are, because they become invisible, when you're looking at things. Those are the ones that I said, man, those are the ones that I really wish that I could have done something to change the trajectory of their lives. Because if you change the trajectory of their lives, the trajectory of their siblings changes, and the trajectory for their parents are going to change as well. Pick your causes carefully. Don't go chasing windmills. If you don't know what that phrase means, go pick up a book. It's called Don Quixote. You have to embrace something that you're passionate about. People in the community know LULAC. You can be a leader at a very young age, and you might be able to resolve whatever you're advocating for. Does that mean your days as an advocate are over? No. People are going to look to you. Our community needs people to look up to, and it doesn't matter what their age is. You can be very young and be a hero to someone that is going to look up to you because you're going to make a difference. I can't tell you necessarily what it takes to be an advocate other than passion and commitment. And those are the two biggest ones. You have to have a passion for it, and you have to be committed. It has to be 100%. All of the other ingredients to be a leader are you. are what makes you, your characteristics. So everyone is different. Every leader is different. You have charismatic leaders that can be in front of a microphone and speak, and you can have some leaders that are very shy in front of a camera and, very hesitant, very reluctant to speak. But know this, if you have passion and you have commitment, you will always have the truth on your side. And that's really what you have to do to be a good leader, a strong leader. And just remember this, sometimes you'll stumble and fall, and that's okay. Heroes, leaders, whatever you want to call them, sometimes have bad days. You're going to have bad days. But just remember this, as a leader, you have to help someone have a better day. So for you to be an advocate, it's going to change. And I'm going to tell you why. Back in the day, being an advocate, being a leader, being out there was going out in the streets and marching, protesting. We don't see that anymore. With today's technology, it's all online. My generation is caught between half protesting because that's what our parents did. They marched, they protested, they did sit-ins, etc. And we're caught between the technology age of, oh, let's cancel them, let's boycott them, let's attack them on social media. But the next generation of leaders is going to have to navigate that. Social media can't do it all. You're going to have to go back to those days of marching and taking to the streets sometimes to get your point across. But before you go and do that, make sure you start small, build yourself up, build your reputation up, and build your credibility up. You'll get there. It's a trial and error thing. Everything changes. We know that. So it's kind of hard for me to foresee into the future what LULAC's going to look like. Guess we'll find out when we go to Corpus Christi for the 100-year reunion, celebration of the creation of LULAC. It's kind of hard to see what we're going to look like. As I mentioned earlier, technology plays a very big part in society today. But I will say this, if LULAC loses its basic principles and the fundamental reasons why it was created, LULAC will cease to exist as LULAC we know it. LULAC was created for civil rights, and that's something that's under attack today. There's something that I've always said, the LULAC way, and a lot of people don't understand that because a lot of people in the organization today haven't been in the organization more than 10, 15 years. If you've been in this organization less than 10 years, you have no idea what the LULAC way is. You don't have an idea of what familia is. And if LULAC loses the concept of familia amongst ourselves, our members, then we'll lose the organization. And the one thing is, if we ever lose LULAC councils, we'll lose the organization, because it's the council with its members that gives LULAC its credibility, that makes LULAC strong. And when that happens, that helps the leaders that we have at state levels go to your state capitals and lobby or argue or protest for whatever is wrong or something we need changed, because the credibility of the organization starts at the council level. And the same is true for the national level. Your credibility comes from what? LULAC. What is done in the community. So I'm very confident that the organization will stay the same in that aspect I'm hopeful for the councils. The LULAC spirit would still be there, because there'll always be a need for LULAC as long as there's discrimination, and LULAC will be there. But again, I've seen LULAC change from when I was a kid growing up within LULAC to where it is today. And LULAC has gone through some changes. We just have to make sure that those changes are good for the benefit of the organization. It's going to keep it solvent. And at the end of the day, we'll be fine. Again, what we're going to look like, I have no idea. We're going to look like something. But the one thing that will never change for LULAC is it's the emblem, the shield that says LULAC, because that is how we are recognized. That is who we are as an organization. That represents us. So as long as that's still there, we'll be fine. As far as myself, probably enjoy life a little bit more. Travel a little bit more. Get out there to the world a little bit more. You know, gotta enjoy life. Short. Life is very short. And you gotta appreciate it. Because when your time comes, that's it. You know? So, for me, travel more, spend more time with family. My parents are still alive, thank God. I'm very grateful for that. Spend more time with them. I would tell that to anyone. Spend time with your parents, especially as they're getting older. You know, the moment they're not there, it's going to be a big blow. But spending time with family and traveling, and maybe somewhere along the way do some LULAC stuff. From the community, I would hope to be remembered as someone that was able to make a difference for someone in my hometown, in my local community, by all of the philanthropy that I do. And being able to provide opportunities for kids, for other individuals to make it in life. And in LULAC, well, that's a different story. I mean, they'll remember me as LULAC's 50th president. And I think at the end of the day, that's how I'm going to be remembered, because the people that will remember me when I'm gone will probably be gone either before me or after me. And the ones coming after that didn't know what happened or what I did during my presidency, they're just going to know him as the 50th president. But it's not a matter about how you're being remembered, I think. You know, and I know I'm kind of dancing around the question of LULAC because I'm still trying to figure out how do I want LULAC to remember me by. But I guess if they had to write something in my epitaph, it would say something like, he was just someone that tried to make a difference. And what LULAC means to me is not only a way of life, but it's also something that you learn along the way. I've made a lot of wonderful friends within LULAC, and I've met friends of my parents within LULAC. And I met some people that didn't like me. Hard to believe, right? But hey, it happens. But they respected me because when I gave my word on something, I carried through with it, and I always try to be fair, you know, in any position that I had with everyone. I would say that LULAC has afforded me a lot of opportunities that some friends would tell me we're living vicariously through you. And I think a lot of you that are listening to this would probably understand what I mean. In terms of meeting individuals, being able to make a difference, playing a role in something bigger than you are. But LULAC, for me, is like the church. So we used that expression before. We take everybody. There's something for everyone in LULAC, and I think that's very important. Everyone has their own issue that they want to address, whether it's immigration, whether it's taxes, whether it's, you know, hey, I want to focus on scholarship, whether it's whatever it is. There's something for everyone in LULAC, and I think that's what makes us unique. And what makes us unique, and I'm going to go back to this again, is that concept of familia. The day LULAC stops being familia, that's the day we stop being LULAC. And but that's what LULAC means to me. You know, the ability to help other individuals, the ability for our members to get together like at state and national conventions and come together like a very big family reunion and say hi to one another. The ability to travel from one city to another and know that there's another LULAC member there that says, hey brother, come and stay at the house, or hey, come by the house, you know, etc. Again, the term familia. So LULAC for me means a lot of things. LULAC for me means being able to protect and defend and it can be anything so much. It could be protect and defend individuals. Their civil rights are being violated. Or it could be protect and defend just the whole community with some kind of law that's going to really upend a lot of things. So I think as we continue within LULAC, our definition of what LULAC means to us as individuals is going to evolve. But the core principles of why you're in LULAC and what it means to you will probably never change. And for me, those are it. So, we'll just see where we continue to go and what role we play within the organization. And, as long as you're doing something you love, you have fun with it. And I love LULAC a lot, like I know a lot of you do too. So, I guess we just have to get back to the familia.